The Global Climate Risk Index ranks Pakistan as the 5th most climate vulnerable country, with 152 extreme weather episodes. Over the past decade or so, Pakistan's greenhouse gas emissions grew by 50%, reaching over 200 million tons of carbon CO2 in 2019, and by 2030, it will rise by 540%. We don't take a lot of responsibility for the global greenhouse gas emissions, of course, but in our neighborhood, we have to protect ourselves. Energy and transport are largest emitters, followed by industry and agriculture and land practices. Air pollution is costing 50 billion, not to mention the health issues we all face. Textile, our largest industry and exporter, is globally known to contribute 6 to 8% of emissions, and 70% of it is attributed to upstream energy-intensive material processing. In wake of these threats and vulnerabilities, cost of climate inaction is going to be larger than the cost of climate action. Over the last 2 decades, climate change in Pakistan resulted in more than 0.5% per unit of GDP losses, resulting in $3.8 billion of annual economic losses. These figures are from the Economic Survey of 2020. Environmental degradation alone requires climate adaptation in the range of 7 billion to 14 billion per year. And by the way, the 3.8 billion figure was also annual loss. So meanwhile, share of public expenditure deployed for climate change is barely 6 to 7%. Public investment choices are difficult, but to the extent I am a voter, I would vote for an allocation for climate, because nobody will be safe from it. Only a segment of corporate sector subscribes to sustainability reporting, and few of them are committed to zero emissions by 2030, and that has happened during the COP26. As yet, no Pakistan regulatory agency requires borrowers' climate disclosure. So future can be safeguarded by assigning priority to sustainability and recognizing that meeting the needs of present without compromising the needs of future generation has high payoffs for nations and requires political and corporate leaders to have an eye on long-term growth and probability and profitability, and to safeguard the planet and people. We are working at the Stock Exchange to ease the options like access to RDA, and hopefully we can offer Asan mobile options for the investors to open their account easily. PSX has also been working with a number of accounting entities to work on the ESG. Once we get the corporates to have environment, social safeguard, and governance defined clearly, then we hopefully will be able to attract the long-term institutional investment money that is seeking for places where you can have cleaner options. We would like to finally take Pakistan Stock Exchange to the league of the sustainable stock exchange, which will also bring in a lot of good money. So we are working towards enhancing the corporate governance of the corporate sector, because I'm chairing the PICG, and PICG and PSX are launching this collaborative platform with ACCA and ICAP as well as CFA.